How's it going, everyone? Matthew Prestwood here with Backer Club, back again with another creator interview. Today we have Eric from Preservation Dogs, who has the Arctic Fox Trekking Paws campaign live on Kickstarter. How's it going, Eric?
It's going good. Thank you, Matthew.
Awesome. So we just have a few questions for you today. We're hoping that you can show us and kind of explain to us a little bit of the behind the curtains view of your project. And so we'll get right into it. For someone brand new to the preservation dogs and Arctic Fox Trekking Paws, can you give us a brief overview of the project and what it's about?
Sure. Preservation Dogs is a company that I founded with a friend and partner named Alec Care. And our whole idea was to uh, found an outdoor gear company, accessory company that inspired folks to get outside while also using innovative and possibly biomimicry tech inspired ideas um, to help out the world. But also, one of the big things for us was that our company will donate 10% of our the profits from a project from each project to habitat preservation that supports the creature that inspired our designs. This particular the Arctic Fox Trekking Paws is our first product to hit the market, and it is a trekking pole tip whose design is based on the paw and print of an Arctic fox. Um, so 10% of our profits will go toward, moving forward, will go toward preservation of Arctic fox habitat. So in that case, or in this case, that means, they have quite a large range, but climate change is threatening Arctic stability. So we'll do something to protect Arctic stability and to combat climate change.
Awesome. Yeah, it seems like it's going well on Kickstarter so far. Um, how
Yeah.
is Arctic Fox Trekking Paws different from maybe some other, trekking or trekking pole tips on the market?
um, they're pretty different. All right, so in some ways they're not different at all. In other ways they are different. So for anyone who is familiar with hiking and trekking poles come standard with a carbide tip, which is very sharp and hard. I mean, carbide, you know,
Yep.
cuts through many things, and that's great for specific environments like soft terrain. Trekking pole companies have also started and they make soft rubber trekking pole tips that give you lots of benefits, especially on hard surfaces like rock or concrete, and because the carbide doesn't have any grip on say like stone or pavement. Um, so our in some ways, our tips are not super different. They're made of a soft like rubber. They give you extra grip on hard terrains. They dampen the sounds a lot like other trekking pole tips do, and they keep the carbide from poking through. If you put them on your backpack or put them in luggage, something like that. The thing that makes ours very different is the ones that are out there now are either well, forgive the opinion, but they're fairly uninspired.
Mm.
They kind of look like tire tread. Um, ours ours are actually based on the paw and print of an Arctic fox. So they have four front pads or four front toes and a rear pad, and those flex a bit to give added stability and grip in all kinds of terrains, not just like hard rocky lake terrains, but sand, dirt. They work really well, and they leave a fox print when you walk behind. So they're very quiet. The other thing that makes ours different is that we're using a material that's made of 50% recycled tires. Um, so we found a company here in the U.S. who takes recycled tires, saves them from going to the landfill, and actually creates a TPE that we can actually injection mold with those. So it's we don't know of anyone else who's making tips out of actual recycled materials. Um, that that I think those cover the main points of how we're different.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I really like the sustainability aspect, and we'll dive into that a little bit later. But I think that's really, really important for this project. So, where did the inspiration for these tips come from?
You know, my partner Alec and I met working on a different project, and it's one that's still in the pipeline, but it turned out it was a lot more complicated to actually bring out to market. Um, this was just another one that was in the back of my mind, and we met a few years ago. Um, he is a uh, 3D designer and was teaching 3D design, and so I was kind of shuffled to him to help me with this other project, and we worked on it and we did a lot of work, and it not much came to it, and life went on, and we went in different directions, and I got a call from him maybe I don't know 6 months after we started working, and he was like, I can't get these out of my mind. We've got to get these out here. So I was like, yeah. And so we kept talking, and I was like, well, gosh, I have this other idea of a trekking pole tip that leaves a little footprint behind. So would let's dive in on that. And he said, I think that makes a lot of sense. So we did. So inspiration came from our meeting and our keeping going. But for me, I go out hiking a lot, and I don't well, I'm using trekking poles a lot more, but I've never really been a trekking pole user. And the thing that irritated me most about them was the loud noise they made, and then just seeing the jagged holes from the carbide tips in the ground. And whether I was using them or whether I wasn't, like I go out to hike to get into the wilderness and kind of be away from human things. Um, and I was like, God, wouldn't it be great if when I was looking down at the ground, I didn't have to see like the remains of human hikers, which sounds like I'm climbing Everest or something. But um, I I was like, gosh, if they made a little print, you wouldn't even notice that they were there. And if you did, you might be inspired to like say, hey, what kind of wilderness is actually what kind of like fauna and wildlife actually lives here in the wilderness. So that's where that came from for me.
Oh yeah, that's a great story. You know, it really really is important to be like when you're out in nature, and I could just imagine seeing all the holes and being like, this isn't
Yeah,
even the same place anymore. It seems very
yeah.
like ripped through, and so yeah, that's a good story.
And it turns out that even now, some of the national parks and state parks that are like Zion, for instance, that kind of terrain, the carbide tips are causing permanent scarring, and they're requiring
Wow.
you to put on rubber tips. And I thought, well, what better thing than actually something that blends in? So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's great. So the next question we have here is, how long have you been working on this design?
Um, Gosh, the design for I would say more than 2 years, 2.5 years, two and a half to 3 years. Alec and I, uh, yeah, that's about right. So the first thing that we wanted to do was come up with a design that worked, and then we thought we had something pretty great. We did a bunch of prototype testing with 3D printing using also a filament that's made of recycled tires. I don't know. We wanted to be consistent across the board that way. And then we were like, well, gosh, somebody like Lecky or Black Diamond who's already set up to create these tips, it would be really easy for them to just like see the design and be like, oh yeah, why didn't we think of that and create that design? So one of the big things that has taken a long time is working on the intellectual property rights. So
Wow.
we went to a couple of patent, U.S. Trade and Patent Organization workshops. We got hooked up with some patent lawyers out of Boulder, Colorado, and through an entire program, actually last year submitted the patents for both design and utility on these guys. So
Wow.
we expect to hear something back very soon from the design side. The utility takes a little longer, but we are currently patent pending, which gives us some, yeah, um, So that has taken every step of this has taken a long time. So from once we got the rights, it turned out that we had to, or were protecting them, filed our patent, utility and design patent applications. We were like, okay, we need someone who can produce these. So in looking to design for manufacturability, the whole design had to change for like draft angles and various things. So that there was a long back and forth. So we've got something that works really well now, and yeah, it's taken 2.5 years to get that going. So
Yeah,
it's been
I
quite a journey. Yeah.
Yeah, I love to ask this question to most of the creators because it kind of gives the backers a idea of how long it actually takes to even get to the point where they see it on Kickstarter. I think a lot
100%.
of people believe that it's just a super quick, like, oh, they worked on it for 30 days and they threw it up. But yes, it's usually years in the making
Yeah.
before it
Oh,
even
yeah.
gets created on Kickstarter.
And that doesn't even include like all the work that Alec and I have done on this other project.
Yeah.
So in reality, I think we met 4.5, 5 years ago, did a bunch of work,
Mm.
and then came to this, and so yeah, 2.5, 3 years. It's a lot of work. I didn't think until I did this, I didn't know that either.
Yep.
So yeah, yeah.
Cool. So, the next thing we're going to talk about is kind of the environmental sustainability
Mm.
aspects of the project. And I noticed that you kind of already touched on the fact that they're made from recycled tires. Is there
Mm.
any other sustainability aspects to the project?
Well, we've tried through every step of the process, like when we're testing them, the prototypes out of 3D printed objects. We tried and we were like, oh gosh, what's the most sustainable filament we could use? And we found one that was made of recycled tires. We were looking into bioplastics as well. Uh, the whole impetus for us is to help get people outdoors and to inspire them to um, uh, reconnect with nature. So for us, just the fact of getting folks outside or helping in any way we can, I think heals a huge deficit in our nature connection.
Yeah.
I think that the very basis for our company is we want to somehow do something that gives back. We want to enjoy the world, but also give back to nature that gives us so much. So uh, yeah, getting folks outside, hopefully re-inspiring people. We've had so many people write in and say, "Oh my gosh, the fox paws are so cute. I can't wait to get outside and leave little fox prints when I'm walking." Um, and that means a lot. The product themselves are as environmentally friendly as we could think to make them. Although I'm always thinking about, well, gosh, what if we did it this way? Um, uh, so we looked at like bioplastics, but like plastics that are made. So injection molding seems like the it takes maybe 6 hours to print a trekking paw,
Yeah.
and they don't always work well. So if you're going to make a lot of them, you have to do something like injection molding. And materials used for injection molding tend to be plastics or rubbers. And we weren't necessarily rubbers are great, but they're also, vulcanized rubber is also not super environmentally friendly. There's a lot of chemical alterations, and the process that vulcanizes rubber and makes it super hard is not a very friendly one. And then bioplastics, we're like, oh gosh, rather than extracting petroleum products from the earth to make bioplastics or to make plastics, why not look at bioplastics? But they're not super great yet, and they also kind of promote a huge mono agricultural culture. So growing corns or various things for the bioplastics isn't necessarily the best thing either. So we thought, we like the idea of using something that is already, recycled tires. So tires, they're at the end of their lives, and if we can use those to actually give new life to a product, and they're recyclable after they wear down, although they take a long time to wear down. They actually last a long time, but but we liked that idea. We liked the idea of reusing something that is we're going to just be thrown away anyway. Um, uh, so yeah,
Yeah, I think I saw that
environmentally, that's
I saw that the packaging was also very
yeah,
sustainable
exactly.
as well, right?
Yeah, so our packaging is going to be is made from recycled cardboard. It's minimal. It's both recyclable and biodegradable. It has cute information about Arctic foxes on it. Um, and yeah, we tried from there'll be no plastic, so we don't a lot you go to REI and you buy like a Lucky Pole tip or a Black Diamond pole tip, which again I think that they're great products, but they're in plastic bags or they're in
Yep.
it's like why we want to avoid that as best we can. So um, yeah, trying to get trying to make the most sustainable product we can here. So
Yeah.
that is our that's our commitment. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. Love to hear it. So now I'd like to talk a little bit about kind of an overview of your team, if you could
Oh,
briefly touch on that. I know you mentioned your partner um,
yes.
very briefly there, but
Yeah. So Alec here. So I'm Eric. Eric Moffat. Alec and I founded Preservation Dogs. We actually put the business paperwork in um, about 2 years ago. Although we've been working on this and other projects for about 2 years or more before that. Um, but I myself grew up in the mountains of Colorado, and just have a love of the wilderness there. Um, I also run. I inherited a company from my dad that runs motorcycle tours in India, Nepal, Tibet, Bhutan, throughout that neck of the woods. So I'm trying to shift that over more toward less motor power, more bicycle leg power. um,
interesting.
yeah, Alec and I met. He was working at a company in Santa Fe where we both live, and he's a 3D design guy. And we met on this other project. I just kind of, I contacted the company, and he's no longer with them. He's actually doing 3D design for the national laboratories up at Los Alamos. Although his passion, he's
Wow.
like, let's make this work so I can quit my job.
Okay.
um, so we're trying, and that's it. That's the two of us. I mean, we worked with some lawyers, a great firm out of Boulder, in order to get the patent applications in, and we've worked with some excellent consultants just on various other aspects, especially Kickstarter, the launch. But we're also working with a company now called, which will tie in, I think, to some of your questions later, Ursa Technologies in Santa Fe. Uh, they have some equipment, and interest in injection molding. So whereas we had planned to send this out to a third party in order just to have them produced. It looks like we're going to produce them and be able to produce them ourselves in Santa Fe, which is exciting.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So if we're completely inundated with incredible interest, um, we may still call in the experts, but we have uh, Plan B and C in motion too. So we can definitely we're excited actually about being able to make them ourselves. Um, uh,
Yeah,
and so
very cool.
partners, yeah. Uh, um,
Cool. So, I guess I'll ask you, you kind of touched on it a little bit.
yeah.
Why Kickstarter? Like, why not go directly to, consumer or Amazon or some other type of
Well,
outlet?
yeah, exactly. So one of the main reasons why Kickstarter, uh, yeah, I was quite resistant actually to Kickstarter and a crowdfunding campaign, and we tried several times. We're like, oh gosh, this is such a great idea. Let's do pitch contests. Let's get it out there. And the feedback that we got back was that, well, gosh, we don't think that your project might not have the traction it needs. And we're like, ha ha ha, this is all about traction. Um, yeah, but that was one thing. uh, but like finally, I was like, gosh, maybe this is a good idea. Maybe we do it this way, and actually see if people like them. So we have I don't know, about 520 backers right now, and orders for over 1,000 trekking paws. So pairs. So we wanted both to kickstart the business itself, but also to prove and well to see whether this was actually a viable thing that people wanted. Um, so that's why we chose Kickstarter, and we think it's kind of a great platform for um, people who have ideas and creators to actually test it in the real world. So
Yeah, that's great. Love to hear it. We got just a couple of questions left
yeah,
here. Well, yeah, kind of run through them real quick. How confident are you guys in the June delivery date?
we're pretty confident. So I don't. I should know exactly the date my Kickstarter campaign ends, but I believe it's the 9th or the 10th, and of April. Uh, yes, and then I was like, "What month is it? Oh my God!" um, and then 2 weeks after that, we get funds from Kickstarter, and then we'll be buying our materials and our mostly our materials and getting our packaging set up. We've already been see the great thing is we've already been running test um, production runs on the paws themselves, so we've been able to produce several of them. So we're very confident actually in June. So um, we should have all of May to produce these things, and then some of April, all of May, and then we're planning to start shipping in June. So I mean, things always come up, but we kind of gave ourselves a lot of room in order to get that done. So I yeah, we want people to be able to hike
That's
with these
great to hear.
things
It
by
sounds
summer. Yeah.
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 Definitely sounds like it's going to be a possibility.
Yeah.
All right. And then kind of the last thing is here. Is there anything that you'd like to say to your backers directly?
Um, uh, well, yeah. These are really fun. I think you'll really like them, and I'm so excited for you to get out there and start using them. And thank you all for checking out the project. I think it's as I say a lot of fun. It's pretty meaningful to us, and we're looking forward to this being the beginning of of a line of products that is innovative and environmentally friendly and is and is fun. And we can't do it without you. So thank you for checking us out. And those of you who have backed or do back, thank you so much for that. It's like it means so much to us as far as like your your not commitment, the faith, I guess, your faith in what we're doing, and your support that way. Both monetarily, but even more than that, it's just the enthusiasm and the desire to see the project come to life. It means more than you know. So yeah,
Yeah. Well, that's great. We're glad to see it. It's going to be on it's on Kickstarter for like you said. I think it's about 13 more
yeah.
days, so everybody go check it out. And it was glad to have you on the show, Eric. That was Eric with Preservation Dogs, who has the Arctic Fox Trekking Paws on Kickstarter live right now.
Thank you so much.
Go check it out, guys. Thank you.